Well, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, considering. I'm still, well, it's funny because I tell people I'm, fun employed.
Yeah.
But in reality, I do have a job, which is nice. Well,
Oh, are you already working for them?
no, I haven't started, but I have a job, right?
Plug them? Should we plug them?
Yeah, so I'm starting. I know. It's funny. Every time I plug them, though, on the podcast, I'm wearing an Ascent Protein hat. But I'm working for FNX. I'll be starting a sales job with them as soon as I move to Utah, which will be nice.
Yeah. You should tell them to make you a hat.
They have hats. I just haven't bought one yet.
You have to buy one?
I don't know. I honestly don't. Like, I didn't. The one question I didn't ask in the interview is the one that I feel like, especially for
I'm not picking my butt.
these types of companies, should always ask is, what kind of free shit do I get?
Yeah.
Or what kind of discount do I get, And I did not do that, so that's my bad. But other than that, like, I'm doing well. I'm trying to put a lot more, like, focus into the podcast. I actually, I now have 2 bonus videos on the Patreon that you can only get if you're a subscriber.
So
subscribe. It's only $3 for the lowest one. And then I just released the history episode with Ariel.
Okay.
And then I've got our shitty quality sound dwarf episode that's coming up.
What happened with that one?
So I actually put a little blurb in before the episode, but basically what happened was we have everything set up, right? But when I record onto the computer, I have to switch the microphone. And so when we did a test run, I switched the microphone. And then I stopped that test run and it reset it. And I didn't switch the microphone again. I thought that it was just still on that. So everything came out of the GoPro, which in this situation is fine because we're 2 fucking feet away from it.
You say that now.
Well, yeah. But obviously in the garage that doesn't work because we're like 15 feet away from it.
So how many of these have we done together?
You and I?
Yeah.
We've done, let's see, I just published episode 12.
Okay.
So you and I have done, I think, 7 of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of those 7, not one has come out.
One.
Which one?
It was, let's see, not the well, audio wise, the one came out really well. The Elves, the Awakening of the Elves.
Yeah.
The audio came out great in that one. That was just the one that the video was shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
so
there's always my point is
there's always been something. Now, our bonus episode that we did over Zoom, the one that's on Patreon, that one's great.
Yeah.
Audio is great. It's funny because we talked about it a little bit where now that I've got that new microphone, your audio sounds shit, but you have a new microphone now.
Which, because of that episode.
Yeah. So hopefully that'll be better.
Which is funny because I use it for work.
Right.
And I did have like the little standalone microphone stand.
Yeah, I like the little stand thing.
And then I took it off and I put it on the boom mic.
Oh, did you?
Because we were doing a meeting with like our neighborhood, and like everyone always has a problem hearing Melissa. And so I was like, well, let me put it on the boom mic. We'll put it over us, right? And I just left it there. And so like now I have it. Like,
now
when
it's
I
just
do
there.
Like Zoom meetings for work.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll pull it down.
Yeah. It feels, there's something about that.
Yeah.
Like pulling the mic over to you, like
Yeah.
there's something about that just feels good, So yeah, that one, the history one, I don't know if you've listened to it, the one that I did with Ariel.
I haven't listened.
The Elves in Valinor. That one sounds and looks really good. But the ones that I've done with Ariel have usually gone okay.
Yeah.
It's the ones that you and I do that end up being shitty. But
so
we'll get it.
Crossed.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it.
Hoping that this one actually, like, the audio will definitely be different.
Yeah, it's gonna splice in different audios for sure. But I mean, the Ariel actually commented on the dwarf one. She was watching me while I was doing it, and then like I watched the whole thing once I was done, and she couldn't hear it because I had headphones in, but she made mention like the quality looked amazing, like the video looked really good. I was actually able to I zoomed in a little bit on us so that it wasn't such a wide stance. And like it looked really good, and like Ariel commented on that. I'm like, yeah, too bad it sounds like shit. But overall, like, we're getting there, and we'll have one, maybe two more of these in person.
Well, now we know that like Zoom one worked. Like the Zoom one worked fine this time.
Yeah, and
the last one was just
the lag on it and everything else was just ridiculous. I'm not sure what was going on with that. I know you said part of it could have been that you were in the garage. So I think that'll be fine. And I'll be doing that off of my new computer that I haven't touched yet, that's still in the box. But I'll be doing it with that. So like speed-wise, capacity-wise, like all of that, it should be fine. Once we're all settled in where we're at.
Here we go.
Oh, wow.
This is where the traffic starts.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're actually on our way
into San Francisco.
Because I have a haircut.
There's a lot of dashboard and not a lot of traffic, but you know, it's there.
The dashboard's all dusty. Should cut that out.
It's a bad position for that. It's fine. I'll throw you back right there. I bet that sounds awful. Me like turning it.
Yeah, that.
Right there? Is that about right? That's probably about right. Let me see.
Again, you have a phone.
Shut up.
Where you can check that.
Shut up. I do. But yeah, on the Swole side of the Swolhirrim, I've done nothing. I feel myself deflating.
I've swollen, but not in the right way.
I know that I haven't like, you know, lost all my gains.
Yeah.
But it really feels like I have.
Well, we took that, so we got our second shot last week.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were in the middle of week 3 of cycle 3 of our Wendler cycle.
Okay.
And so we each did the back squat portion, and then our appointment was in the morning, so we couldn't do the next day's workout. And then we were both just kind of feeling the effects of it more than we did the first one.
Right.
Still okay, but
that's what I've heard. I've heard the second one always kind of knocks you out a little bit more.
And so we ended up just calling that week off and not doing our Wendler. And so we pushed it off to this week. And I do feel like it was tougher this week with that week off, which is weird because you do a deload week. Right,
and that's like I'm continually telling myself like I obviously will get back into it.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm hoping, like, science tells me that this last 2 weeks off is good for me.
Yeah.
I feel like I've lost everything, and I feel like I'm going to have to work back all my strength from zero. I know that's not the case, but I do think it's possible, like, the next time I pick up a barbell, I'm going to be like, oh shit, that's heavy.
Well, I went from, why is this all stopped here? That's not cool.
Dumb humans.
Yeah, I went.
Oh man.
Well,
we got some traffic up in here.
Yeah, I knew it would. Everyone's going into San Francisco. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so like, I wouldn't think that, just because like, I went from like really not doing anything when the pandemic started to like hitting that, like when we started the Wendler thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't exercising regularly at all.
Oh yeah, and you got that PR on your back squat.
PR on my back squat, so I'm convinced that I probably got in the wrong lane because there's cars moving.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a little bit nervous about it, but not too much. And I've been eating, like, I've been still, like, keeping my calories high. Yeah. Usually when I'm not working out, I drop down on how much I eat, because honestly, like, if I'm at home all day, like I have been, like, I get to the point where I'm kind of just, like, as dumb as it sounds, like, I forget to eat. Yeah. You know, like,
Melissa does that all
the
time.
2 o'clock rolls around, and I'm
wish
like,
I could do that.
Like 2 o'clock rolls around, I'm like, oh, I haven't eaten lunch yet. I should probably maybe eat lunch. And then it, like, gets so close to, like, dinner that I'm just like, well, I don't want to eat lunch now because it's almost dinner time. And it's just like this whole, like, thing. Yeah. But I have been trying to, like, keep myself on it so that I don't, you know, I just went through that whole muscle mania thing to gain weight, and I don't want to drop all of that back down. Yeah. So I've been lucky. I've been able to stick it at, I've stayed at 175. So I dropped about 3 pounds between then and now, but it's been, what, 3-4 weeks almost?
Yeah,
since I stopped that. Yeah.
Yeah, because you stopped just before the first open event?
Yeah. Yeah, which wasn't smart. I actually, no, yeah, I stopped the day that we did 21.1. Yeah. Oh, God.
That feels like so long ago.
It really does.
What is going on here?
I don't know, but I feel like there's an ice cream man somewhere. Do you hear that? There's like an ice cream man jingle going. Anyway.
Did they, like, seriously, like, go from 4 lanes to 2 lanes here?
Oh, is that what's happening?
I think that's.
Did they have some stuff closed down?
Maybe. That's weird. Anyways.
But yeah. So, I mean, fitness-wise, it's not great. You know, I went and did that running devil press workout that I told you about when we were in Utah.
Oh, yeah.
That was fun. We went golfing.
Yep.
Which was fun.
I wouldn't call that fitness.
I mean, I would. Like, there's definitely been times I've gone golfing that I've walked away sore.
You had a ridiculous strain.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
I've gotten more sore bowling than I do golfing.
Really?
Yeah.
I wasn't sore this time, which surprised me since it's been so long. But yeah, I wasn't sore this time golfing. I was fine, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a good course.
I would, like, I don't know, Ariel asked if we were gonna go again before we left, and I mean, I would love to, except for the fact that, like, renting clubs is just so goddamn expensive.
You just need to find someone who's got clubs that you can borrow.
Yeah. Is there, like, an accident up here?
No, I think they're doing something weird.
But yeah, I'm hoping that as soon as we get into Salt Lake, like, things can normalize a little bit when it comes to me doing fitness. I need to find a gym. There's a gym at the apartment complex that we're moving into, but you know, it actually has a lifting platform, which is cool. Kind of great. But other than that, like, there's no room for me to do, like, muscle ups. I can't do, like, high skill gymnastics movements in there. Like, there's nothing like that I could do. So I could get, like, I could spend some time and just get fucking strong, I guess.
Which is basically what I'm doing.
Right, the Wendler cycle. Yeah. You're just building strength.
I haven't done WODs and, like,
outside of the open.
Outside of the open, yeah. Like, I'll do WODs every now and then, but not, like, regularly. Like, I don't schedule them. I don't plan them. Like, Melissa plans them. Like, she'll sit on there and she's like, "Oh, I got a good one for you." She had a good one for me, quote unquote. I was so mad. It was like,
it's just gross.
It was double unders and push-ups. Eventually, I thought it was gross and stupid. Because, like, I started doing it and like there's no way I'm doing this. Like, I didn't have, like, when you lose your double unders, you just
they're done.
Double unders, and it's just frustrating. And then, like, I could not do the push-ups to save my fucking life.
No.
Like, after the first round, I was like down to like 3.
They were done.
Yeah, and I'm just like, nope. Threw my rope into the garage, and I'm like, fuck this.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, double unders, it's hard to ever come back if you just are continually whipping yourself.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know. I honestly, like, unless I'm doing, like, only 5 at a time, I lose push-ups pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I can get through, like, when I was, like, fit, like, and we were, you know, going to the gym constantly.
Right.
Like, sets of 10 were easy, and then like maybe after like set 5, 6, 7, right, like you start losing them and you start like doing them in 5s.
Right.
Like the push-ups were never, like push-ups suck, but
Yeah.
I never had too much of a problem with it.
Well, that was like, so I mean that's the reason why I do Murph the way that I do it, right? I do 2, 4, 6 because 4 push-ups is something that I know I can always do.
Yeah.
So I do 2 pull-ups, 4 push-ups, 6 air squats. What is that? 50 times?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's just like I just know that I can do that. Like I know that I can continue to do that always. And anything more than that just wrecks me. I think that's right? 2, 4, 6?
2, 4, 6.
50 times? Yeah, that's 100.
Yep.
200, 300. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So other than that though, maybe I should just
You know who's one fit motherfucker?
Huh.
It's Gollum.
Yeah, nice. He's
Segway.
He's sneaky fit.
Yeah. He's just ripped. Like
Yeah.
you can see like all his muscles.
I don't think that's
swimming all the time.
That's not what you.
That's not ripped.
No.
Oh.
That's just
That's
malnourished.
Malnourished. That's what a full pescatarian diet does to you.
Just
Well,
fish.
Fish and orcs.
Fish and orcs. Well, yeah, but orcs don't taste very good, do they, Precious?
No, they don't.
And we're no longer in the car. It's like magic.
No longer in the car.
Yeah, we're no longer in the car.
How'd that happen?
I don't know. Magic of editing. All right, so here's what I want to do. Leave everything about fitness and all that other stuff in the car. Let's talk about Gollum.
Let's talk about Gollum.
Okay?
Smegol.
Smegol.
Smegol Gollum.
Starting out his life. Gollum/Smegol is complicated in a lot of ways,
Yes.
right? So, like, one of the things that, we've talked about before is this idea that, like, he's complicated because he was kind of written that way, right? Like, the scenario, the persona of Gollum is complicated because I don't think Tolkien Tolkien obviously didn't know the importance of Gollum.
Right.
Just like he didn't know the importance of the ring.
Right.
Right?
When he first wrote it.
When he first wrote them into this world. So, there's a lot like Galadriel, who has been through many iterations of who she is and what she is and all of that. Gollum has kind of had a progression.
Yeah.
Because at first he wasn't described as Hobbit-like.
Right. He was just some creature
In a cave.
with
With a ring.
Yeah.
Who liked riddles.
Yes.
That was it.
Which is very Hobbit-like.
It is Hobbit-like, right? In a cave,
riddles.
in a
The
hole
riddles.
in the ground.
In a hole in the ground.
Riddles. Right? Very Hobbit-like, but like in no other way was it described as such. Like we get later on, where
Also, the other thing that's different between now and the last time, my hair's shorter.
your haircut. That's true.
Anyways.
Were you not wearing a hat in the car?
No.
Oh,
I didn't have a hat today.
you always have a hat on.
I usually always have a hat on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't today.
I always have a hat on because of this.
Yeah. Mine's looking good. The only time
It's been months.
this looks good is when he styles it for me. And then I could never repeat this ever again. And I always go like, how the fuck did he do that?
The last time this got cut was when Ariel buzzed it completely off.
No, yeah.
Hasn't been cut since. But
Smegol Gollum.
yeah, so like it's complicated, right? Because part of the complication is that he didn't exist in the form that we now know him, and so he, with how much Tolkien fans don't like the idea, he had to be retconned. Tolkien actually had to go back and rewrite The Hobbit.
Yeah.
To say like, oh no, like this was Bilbo's story that he told, like, the dwarves. Let me tell you what actually happened.
The first edition was Bilbo's lie to the dwarves.
And so like that idea basically creates this character that, I mean, again, like to be honest, the more that I think about it, this character that I still don't quite understand, right? Because like I still don't like I I understand Sam. I understand Frodo. I understand Bilbo. I understand Gandalf and all of these. Like I understand them. I don't understand Gollum.
What do you mean?
I I don't understand why he was the hero.
So I think we've joked about it, like, oh yeah, Gollum's the real hero of all this, right?
Right.
But Gollum really isn't the hero. Um, Gollum is just the instrument through which, like, they destroyed the ring.
But so what I mean by that is like
He didn't sacrifice.
no, but it's Tolkien basically saying like you can do everything right, and in the end it's just it's not enough, and somebody else is gonna have to step in, even if it's some like asshole addict.
No, no, I don't think that's what's going on there. I mean, I think what that is just, you know, it's just human. It's just a human experience, right? You know, is getting to the point where, you know, you were about to like accomplish what you set out to do, but for this, you know, malicious, you know, entity that, you know, just this corrupting entity that just took over.
Right.
I don't think it's he's saying, you know.
I know it's not strictly allegory of anything and all that
yeah,
stuff.
I don't think. I think it's just to show, like, look, these were probably the two. Frodo was probably the best person to choose to do this, right?
Right.
No ties, right?
Right.
Frodo really didn't have any ties.
Right.
Right. You know, Sam clearly had a love interest. Right. Before the story.
And a love of the Shire, more so than Frodo ever did.
Frodo did.
He did, but he also was intrigued, right?
Frodo was much like Bilbo.
Right.
He wanted to know
he's
more.
Tookish.
Right? Yeah. And then sometimes you find out that, you know, like, I think what the story of Frodo is just like, yeah, like, you know, you're super curious about all this stuff, and at some point, like, you see, you know, you decide, like, I'm gonna, like, do that. Like, he wanted to follow Bilbo, right?
Right.
He says, I think, in the movies,
right,
like, Peter Jackson writes, you know, in the lines that, you know, I wanted to, you know, I always dreamt that I was off on one of your adventures with you, right?
Right.
And I don't want to do it,
right?
It's like that. You remember the episode of The Office where Daryl's trying?
Sure I do.
Daryl's trying to get back at Andy, and he's trying to prank him, and like it's the saber printers that are going up,
and it lights on fire.
It lights on fire. And Daryl's just like, yeah, I don't want to prank him.
Yeah, I don't want to do this anymore.
It's like, this shit got real. And that's essentially Frodo, right? Is Frodo just like, shit got real.
Right.
And, you know, he got back, couldn't stay there. So, you know, I think as far as the heroes go, it's Frodo and Sam, right?
Right.
They're the heroes of the story.
Right.
Because they're the people you would least expect to do something like that.
But for some reason, the means to the end
is
a creepy little addict.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's really, I mean, how he's presented, right? That's really what he is. He's full on just addicted.
He's a meth addict. Like,
yeah.
Literally a meth addict.
Yeah, he will.
Like, no teeth, stringy hair.
He's only got,
super skinny.
What does he say? I've only got 9?
Yeah, something like that.
During the Riddles in the Dark.
Riddles in the Dark.
But, like, yeah, he's full on, like, addicted to the ring.
Yeah.
And what it can, like, what it gives him. And it's this idea of, like, he's been beat up, he's been cast out from family, he's lived under a mountain for, I mean, who knows how long, centuries, right?
I think it's centuries, because I think what
I think they say 500 years in the movie, but I don't know if that's correct.
This fucking flies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Because you and I, so that was one of the other thing that we talked about. Like, he's a hobbit-like creature, right?
right.
But this was far back enough where people were still occupying, where his type of people were still occupying a place that's no longer occupied by anybody.
Yeah.
And so,
well, the last time, so it was along the Anduin, right?
right.
I want to say it was near the Gladden Fields, because that's where, what's his face died.
Right.
Isildur.
Right. Isildur
Right? And so
fell
that's where
there.
he lost the ring. And so if I, again, like I think we said it, don't remember everything off the top of our head. Like we don't know everything memorized, right?
Right.
But if my memory serves me correctly, right? They were there, and the reason they left was because Sauron had come back to Mirkwood, and he had taken over Dol Guldur.
Right.
So it's whenever that happened.
Okay, yeah.
He took over the first time, and because of that negative influence there, then they moved.
Which was, I'm pretty sure, in the last chapter of the Silmarillion, it talks about the first time he comes back to Mirkwood, which was a few hundred years before, like, Bilbo set out on his adventure.
Yeah.
So maybe Gollum is like 500-600 years old, somewhere around there.
He's around. I think he's somewhere around
yeah,
anywhere between 300 and 500. I would say.
Because he's been around for a long time,
which is a long ass time.
Yeah, like he's been around for and for a majority of that time, he's lived under a rock by himself.
Yeah.
Right, with only his precious to keep him company, and so he changed in a lot of ways, but he was still like similar, right? Yeah. He was still Hobbit-like.
Yeah.
And so it is just interesting that like it shows that the pity of Bilbo, what they've talked, what Gandalf talks about, the pity of Bilbo. Saved this addict, who then was destined to end the evil that abounded in...
Because of that pity, yeah.
Because of the pity of Bilbo,
yeah.
Right? So, I mean, there's always the game of, like, what if,
yeah,
right? To the point where Marvel Comics has a whole comic line of what ifs, right?
Well, people do podcasts on like
what ifs.
What if Gandalf had kept the one ring for himself, right?
And so like there is that what if Bilbo killed Gollum there.
Yeah. Like
then and there, what would have happened? Would we have had a Sam, Sam's his when he's thinking about having the ring and becoming what is it, Samwise the Great?
Yeah.
Like would we have had something like that from Bilbo or Frodo?
Yeah.
Like
no, I
from
think,
one of the hobbits that became.
I don't think you'd ever get it from Frodo. I think Bilbo would have kept it. And
do you think he would have become like Gollum or become like this vision vision that Sam had of himself?
No, I think that's the vision people get when they get tempted by the ring, right?
Of power
and trying to do good with it,
right?
We know from everything that like Gandalf tells us, right?
Right.
Is that no, like the ring's gonna corrupt you.
And one of
it's in its nature.
And one of my favorite lines, Bilbo was already feeling this, and you saw it physically with Gollum.
Yeah.
Is he felt like butter scraped over too much bread.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like that's a perfect example of what Gollum looks like.
Yeah.
Like he is like butter scraped over too much bread.
Yeah. And I think what Gandalf said about the ring, it's essentially the ring is essentially Sauron, right?
Right.
Because he put himself in it. That's why he's able to like survive after being
killed by his... I think we've talked about it. It's essentially like a Sauron Horcrux.
Yeah, it's a Sauron Horcrux, right? And so, because Bilbo, was able to acquire the ring and keep it for himself through an act of mercy, right? Then that kind of changed the nature of the wearer, right?
As opposed
the
to
only,
Smegol.
right? The only wearers of the ring have been, Isildur, who got it after he killed Sauron,
right?
Defeated Sauron,
right?
In an aggressive act,
right?
Deagle, who was just the vehicle for
Smegol,
for Smegol to get it. So Deagle gets it. Smegol kills him. In the movie we see Deagle fight back, which probably would have happened. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
They both wanted it.
Right.
Smegol just wanted it more.
Right.
Right.
Well, yeah, and we'll get into that in a minute.
And then he strangles him to death.
Right.
Right. And then the next person to get it is Bilbo, and Bilbo finds it.
And he gets it out of trickery.
He gets it out of trickery,
but he doesn't
malice. Right. He doesn't kill him.
Yeah.
And he's ultimately able to let it go.
Right.
Right. Begrudgingly.
Right.
Reluctantly.
He's although he thought he was trying to be robbed.
Yeah.
He was not trying to rob him.
No. He's trying.
He's trying to help him.
And so.
Bilbo.
And so no, I don't think if.
And then even Sam just got it out of.
Sam got it out of pity. And sadness. He took it only because he knew he couldn't leave it there.
Right.
Right. And if he leaves it there, everything that they did, Frodo dying.
Right.
Right, is essentially for nothing. Right.
Yeah.
So Sam takes it upon himself, he's going to carry the damn thing.
Right. And
that's his intention.
In a much more outward fashion than it shows in the movie.
Yeah. And it's his intention to take it to Mount Doom.
Yeah.
And cast it in there.
Yeah.
Right? And
which, sadly, had he continued, because he would have had it for such a small amount of time, I think he would have been able to do it.
I don't know.
Like I said, I don't hop on the Samwise train like everybody else does, but it's all about it's like working out. It's all about time under tension, right? Yeah. And so his time under tension was way less. Yeah. Granted, it would have all been in Mordor, where we hear the power is more once you get there, right? But I don't know. I think he would have been able to take it.
Yeah,
and toss it in.
Yeah, honestly,
And again, with his love for Frodo, if Frodo had been dead, that would have been his sole his sole mission at that point, right?
Would he have been able to possibly? Could he have also failed? Right. Probably, likely too. Right. Because
and in that case, we get back to Gollum.
Yeah, and you get back to Gollum, and was he cursed?
But so what you were saying that
because essentially. That's what Frodo cursed him.
Yeah.
Frodo said, and we know that in Lord of the Rings world, right?
Right. Curses mean something.
Yeah. And,
when he says swear by the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's and Isildur wasn't anyone special other than, Dunedain.
Yeah, he was the last son of Numenor kind of.
But not a god.
Right.
Right? But he cursed an entire peoples to, damnation.
Right.
And,
until they fulfilled
their oaths. Right?
Yeah.
And so oaths mean a thing there, right? And,
It is interesting, though, something that you were talking about, especially just now, what I was saying we'll get to is, talking about Deagle and Smegol and how there is very much the evidence that Gollum has always been there.
Yeah.
Right? So with what we get from Smegol's backstory from Gandalf, we know just breaking that table.
It's just there's things that you can
I know.
lift, and it's I have to lift it.
We know that 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 there has always been that Gollum piece inside of Smegol, and whatever you want to call that, whether you want to call that malice or you want to call it like mental
Mental health issues.
Health issues, right? Like that's always been there with him to the point where not only did he kill his cousin for a shiny ring, he also, which granted, it was exerting its power.
He justified it too.
He justified it for it being his birthday gift, right? No. But then not just that, but once he had it, he used it being a super creeper.
Yeah.
Like he would go into people's homes, listen to their secrets, make sure that like those people knew that he knew their secrets. He would steal things.
Yeah.
Like and until all the way up until his grandmother finally figured it out.
Yeah.
Right? And who again, they apparently lived in a matriarchal society.
Yep. Because
his grandmother was seemingly
she was the head
woman.
She had head of the clan.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Whatever they were,
the Gold people.
Yeah, an in between men and Hobbit.
Yeah, a pseudo Hobbit.
Yeah, and so it's interesting to see that that's kind of that's a part of that, right? That and all of that was dreamed up, was thought of after Smegol or after Gollum existed, right? Smegol didn't exist when Tolkien wrote Gollum.
Right. Gollum was its own thing.
Right. And
Gollum was always Gollum when he first wrote it.
Yeah, and so now we get Smegol, where we realize that Gollum, no matter what, was always there.
Yeah.
And we get that again later on when he doesn't fulfill his oath, when he double crosses the ring and the master, right? And he goes against what he said because Gollum comes back. Yeah. And that's just to say that Gollum never really left.
Yeah.
Right?
Gollum's always there. Gollum's always been there. Gollum will always be there.
Smegol needed somebody to blame.
Yeah. And I think in the moments, like especially in the movie, I think the movie, it's Smegol who gets the ring back.
Right.
Gollum helped him get it.
Right.
But Smegol has the ring.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's
no joy in Gollum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Gollum cannot experience. Gollum's Smeagol's rage side, right?
Yeah.
And so Gollum is just his means of acquiring the things that he wants.
Right. And justifying it.
Yeah.
Or like claiming that wasn't me.
Yeah, it wasn't me. It was just
that was Gollum.
That was Gollum.
Yeah.
And so so in the moments that he has it and he's in the movie we see him falling and he's clutching it and he's fucking ecstatic. Like that's Smegol. Yeah.
And it is once that he hits like because and they've talked about it in the movie, they do it on purpose, the pupil dilation.
Yeah.
When it's Smegol and when it's Gollum. And like thinking about it, it is like there is a point where he is being burned up by lava where there's some Gollum that comes back in there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so like we see that and we know like that's a really good point because I never thought of that that Smegol gets the ring back.
Yeah.
Like Gollum doesn't get the ring back. Smegol does.
Yeah.
Because he's a completely different creature.
Yeah. There's two characters, right? So like we talked about it and you're like, well, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
And I was like, Gollum. Then you forget that like Gollum's just it's like Batman. It's like saying Batman,
right? Right. And not Bruce Wayne.
Not Bruce Wayne.
Or the Hulk and not Bruce Banner.
Yeah, exactly. So like you can't really you're talking when you're talking about Gollum, you're talking about the persona that Smegol has created to like justify everything he's ever done.
Right. And that's like really because one of the biggest evidences of that is Gollum does not show his face again until he decides to do something wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So in like basically in these personas, Smegol is innocent.
Yeah.
it's only when wrong things are to be done that Gollum appears.
Yeah.
And we even see that in, like, if we've both read the books multiple times, right? But it's easiest to go back to the visualization
Right.
of the movies.
Because, for whatever the movies lack, they do stay true to the source.
Right, and they especially with Gollum and Smegol, they paint an amazing picture.
Yeah.
It's something that we've talked about before, actually. But like Gollum and the Hobbit, you even see there, and we don't know that. I mean, it's never presented in the Hobbit that there is a Smegol, right?
Yeah.
Gollum was only ever Gollum.
Yeah.
But because, and again, I will put this out there, it's a prequel. I'm sorry, but it is. J.R.R. Tolkien made The Hobbit a prequel. So it is.
Yeah.
He
I
retconned
think
it.
people
There are a lot of people who don't agree with that.
that don't think it's a prequel.
There are a lot of people who
What
do not
people
agree with
think
that.
it is?
That it is it is the first story. But the problem is, it was retconned as a prequel.
Yeah, it's not a. It's it's the
You cannot read that
The
book.
Lord of the Rings is its own book.
Right.
It's in 3 volumes.
Right.
Which is in 6 books.
Right.
Right. But it's the Lord of the Rings.
Right. But you can't read The Hobbit now. You could when it very first came out.
Yeah.
You cannot read The Hobbit now and not understand who Gollum and Smegol are,
Right.
who Gandalf is, and what the ring is.
Yeah.
Like you can't read it and pretend like those things don't exist because
Right.
it doesn't mention anything.
Because
Gandalf is a bumbling wizard.
Yeah.
Gollum is a creepy cave dweller, and there's a ring that makes you invisible.
And there's
But you can't think of it just
there's
like that.
also like he couldn't have made it just a standalone, right? Once he really started to get working on the Lord of the Rings, because then you have Elrond, like
Right.
You could
You have characters
could
that
do
already
it as a
exist.
standalone, right? If you don't use those characters ever
Right.
again, right?
Right.
And then it is a story about another set of small human-like
Right.
creatures, and elves and dwarves,
Right.
and all,
Which is fine.
dragons, right?
But he retconned it.
right,
He did it, which means
which I'm not saying that's not a bad thing,
no.
right?
He realized after he published it, he realized there is more of this story to tell. But in order to do that, I have to change some
Yeah.
things.
And that's fine. He had if you his letters too, right? Like he goes through with who orcs are. We talked
Right,
about this,
right, right. There's
And
been so many, even dwarves.
even dwarves.
Dwarves were first the spawn of Melkor.
Yeah.
And then they kind of got
Yeah, and so you go through these re-edits, and when you're an author and you want to publish something and you think you have this final, but then you realize oh no, you know what, this actually fits with this other story that I'm also telling, and I want it all to be part of the same kind of universe that I'm creating for this fucking language
Right.
that I want to create, right? And this mythos that I want to make for the English people, because we don't have anything really like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sorry, it's a prequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
So I don't agree with those people
yeah, no,
who
neither
don't
do
think
I.
it's not a prequel.
And so because of that, the movie paints an amazing picture of the Hobbit movie paints an amazing picture of Smegol and Gollum, and the joy of Smegol in the riddles versus the malice of Gollum in the riddles, right?
Yeah.
Because you do get both of those. You get Smegol's joy and his happiness and his excitement about the riddles, right? And then you've got Gollum, who is very maliciously choosing these riddles so that he can eat
Yeah.
the Hobbit.
Yeah.
And those things, I'm realizing it just now, those things never cross paths. Gollum never shows joy.
Yeah.
It is always malice. But like we said, that is 100% Smegol compartmentalizing his villainy.
Yeah.
He's putting that villainy on something else.
Yeah, and in the movies, it's always Gollum asking the question,
Smegol answering.
Yeah, because
and until Smegol gets mad, or until Gollum gets mad when it's the 3 questions. Because they're like Smegol answers, and then Gollum answers, and then Smegol answers on that one.
No, it's Smegol. No, I think it's Gollum on all 3 of them.
Is it?
On the 3 questions.
Well, because he says at one point he says fingers or nothing, right? Like that part is like them switching back and forth. And you can tell that
because it's 4.
Yeah.
So it's Smegol, Gollum,
2 at once.
Smegol, Gollum.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and again, thinking of these riddles, answering these riddles, is the fun part.
Right. Thinking of the riddle to make sure that you are going to eat a hobbit is a very malicious thing. Answering a riddle is fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so but yeah, it's just interesting, the kind of that when you think of Gollum in that dynamic, in this idea that that Gollum and Smegol are they're 2 different characters, but Smegol is the true character, right? Gollum is basically his scapegoat.
Yeah.
It's his ability to essentially do whatever he wants. And again, there are a lot of things to go into that, right? Like does he actually have control over that? Is some of that the influence of the ring? Is that, like we said, like there's mental health issues involved in there, right? And there's other things like that. But that's really what we're looking at. We're looking at a single character who puts all of his faults onto another character.
Yeah, I think you could probably, like, if we had a psychologist here, right, who could probably talk more about that aspect of it, it'd be better than anything that we're going to say about it. But I think it's clearly like he knows. Like, all this stuff is processing in his head, right? Gollum is there.
Right.
Right? The persona of Gollum is there.
Right.
And that's why it's so easy for him to, like, snap back into these...
Right.
Like,
and
things,
I think that's
right?
the thing,
and it's
right?
The trauma, like, when he, like, in the movie, right? When he kicks him out, right?
Right.
We, for anyone who's never read it, never seen anything about it, right? Would assume, like, oh... he's good. Like, this is good.
Yeah,
right?
We don't need you anymore.
We don't need you anymore. Like, good on him. And
right.
We said this, right? But then the second that, like, some trauma happens that he needs to cope with, like, Gollum is his coping mechanism.
Right.
Right. It's who he uses to cope with the bad.
Right. And not always lying either. Like, let's say, I mean, like, to be completely honest, Gollum is probably right when he says, you wouldn't have survived without me.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, that's probably not a lie.
I don't think Smegol enjoys eating orc.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But when there's nothing else to eat but orc.
Yeah.
Who's going to make you eat it?
Yeah, because Smegol is very happy to sing and smash a fish's head on a rock and then eat that fish. Yeah. Gollum will take a rock and bash an orc's head in and eat it when he has to. It's interesting to see that, to talk about kind of that dynamic of those two, and that Gollum is a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And like, now granted, so we talked about it. Gollum has always been there, right? He was able to kill his cousin. Now, and even before then, my guess, because I think it even says, like, I think Gandalf says at some point, like in the book, he says something to the effect of, like, he was always a bit odd.
Yeah.
And so, like, Gollum was always there, right? And so he always... he always existed.
Yeah.
But with that, like, we can't negate the fact that this is the Tolkien legendarium and magic does exist, right? So the influence of the ring was a reality.
Yeah.
Right? It did, like, I don't want to make it sound like because Gollum had this coping mechanism that he was bad, or that Smegol had this coping mechanism he was bad,
Yeah.
right? But the ring enhanced that coping mechanism, right? And not only that, but it created an addiction for both Smegol, I would say both Smegol and Smegol wanting to have the companionship of Gollum.
Yeah.
And this addiction was created. Obviously just for the good of the ring, right, is what we understand about it. But you know, it's this idea that I swear, like, now that I'm thinking about it, in the book, doesn't Gandalf say that Smegol would walk around and say Gollum before he ever got the ring?
I think I want to say yes.
Like it says like he was odd already, and like he would make sounds of Gollum in his voice like before he ever even got the ring, right? So yeah, he was just a weird dude.
In the movie we don't get that.
Right.
In the movie it's the ring affecting him because you see, you know, Andy Serkis in pre-Gollum.
Right.
Smegol,
Where he looks like the
like,
Grinch.
Yeah, where he's just like choking and like it comes out, right?
I've always thought that scene where he's like crawling into the cave at first, he kind of looks like the Jim Carrey Grinch, and then he blinks and his eyes get huge all of a sudden. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Which is, again, it's like, well, he's not real. Like, he changed a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like in the movie, they changed him a lot from a human, what a human would look like.
But again, like, it's this idea of like butter scraped over too much bread.
Yeah.
Is real, and you know, they show it quickly in the movie, but the idea of living in a cave under a mountain for 300 years will do something to you.
Yeah.
You know.
No sea, no sun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll make you pale AF.
And that was the thing, is like he felt like the sun was not just burning him, but like essentially judging him.
Well, watching him.
Yeah. And so it was like this idea that like he had the ring, and because he had the ring, like the sun was constantly watching him.
Yeah.
Which he did not like.
No.
Because he felt like it was one, like when he had the ring.
Was it the sun though?
Or was it the Eye of Sauron? I see you.
I don't think Sauron was strong enough in order to do that.
No.
Then you find him.
I think more than anything, it's one of like thinking about it in a Smegol perspective is like he could put on this ring and be invisible, right? But like the sun still sees him.
Yeah. Like
he still feels the sun.
Well, and then he didn't need it when he was in the caves.
Right.
Like he'd use it when he
like for orcs
to.
and fishes and stuff like that.
But like he didn't have to use it as much as he did
before,
when he was living with whatever the peoples were. I'm pretty sure it's Stoors, Stoors.
I'm down with that.
And I'm pretty sure that they used to live there, and now they're mostly in Bree.
Yeah, so I mean, and that still goes along with kind of my idea that they were like this intermittent peoples, because I do believe that hobbits are just humans but smaller. They were just colonies of small humans that got smaller and smaller because they bred together.
I like the dwarf elf theory that I just heard. I think that's pretty awesome. It makes for some really good fan fiction.
Yeah,
if you know what I'm talking about.
I bet there's plenty of that out there. I stay away from fanfic in like every, and it's not just because of that, because like one thing, fan fiction is overly sexualized. Yeah. I believe. For some people it's not. Like, and that's perfectly fine.
Some people have good fan fiction.
Right, but what I mean by that is even this super sexualized stuff, it might not be over sexualized for you, and that's perfectly fine. For me, I'm like, sweet baby Jesus. Yeah. Like
well, the whole like dwarf elf thing.
Right.
Like someone like, you know what's really hot? Pointy ears and dwarves.
Yeah. But I stay away from fanfic in general. I don't know. Like my whole thing is like just create a story if you're gonna create a story.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. I know there's giant industries with it and people have fun with it and that's great. Like do your thing.
Yeah.
Just don't expect me to read any of it or like any of.
No, some people have YouTube channels that they do like these what if things, and those are interesting. Some of those are interesting.
Well, like
one somebody did the Gandalf one, right?
Right.
And like listening to it because he goes through the entire like this is what would have happened if he took it and kept it, right?
As long as you're not giving your fanfic as gospel, I'm fine.
No. I don't think he was giving it as gospel. Like, it was an alternate history.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And when and there was a part where he's talking about, well, Gandalf would take them straight down to Isengard, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of going to Elrond and doing all this other stuff. And like he would arrive there just as the riders
would have been there,
right? And he would have already fought Saruman, defeated Saruman because he would have used the One Ring,
right?
Everyone else not knowing that he's got the One Ring, everyone else being Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn,
right?
So it was really interesting, just like. Yeah, it's like he essentially like challenges Sauron.
Yeah,
and he's got the ring, and he's the new Dark Lord.
Yeah, it's like the. Did you ever play the? Did you ever play Assassin's Creed 3?
Yeah.
With Connor.
Yeah.
The Native American.
Oh, I did, and I never finished it.
Oh, it's great. But they had a DLC where it was King Washington. And it's where he decided to like take the apple of Eden and become king. Yeah, it's pretty great. I do love like kind of the new. Honestly, going into this podcast when yesterday you were like, I don't know, Gollum.
Yeah.
And I there was part of me that's like, okay, I'll prepare for this tomorrow.
No.
I did no preparation, but like you said, we've read enough. We've seen the movies enough times.
Yeah, and it's not. Yeah,
it's not like we're talking about fucking.
We're not giving a biography of Gollum.
Right, and also it's not like we're talking about like Turin, where we really need to dive deep, or like Hurin, or like these people that are kind of.
They're not known.
Right. Which
or they are known. Like I mean.
Obviously, people
who's listening to us, right? Do we still have Sweden?
Yeah.
We
no,
do?
not Sweden. Denmark, Costa Rica.
Oh, we have Costa Rica now.
Yeah, we actually have a few different countries. So we've got
Really?
Denmark, Germany, Costa Rica. Shit, there was one other. Can't remember. Shout out to all you guys though.
Yeah.
And mostly the U.S.
Yeah.
But we've got different states now. We've got Georgia, Utah, Virginia. California. The Virginia one is Washington, D.C. They just count it as Virginia. And then mostly California. Anyway, we didn't prepare, right? But
we
also
usually do.
Right, but we're also doing a biography on somebody that we essentially know relatively well,
right?
Right?
Yeah. We know him enough to like have a discussion about him.
If you've read
he's like as a character,
right? If you've read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and especially like again because the visualization, watching the movies, right? That's going to give you enough information.
Yeah.
But
not everything.
No, and I'm hoping that some of the things that we're talking about are news to some people.
Yeah.
Right. But all in all, like this conversation that we've had, more than anything, has made me kind of rethink the idea of Gollum Smegol, and the fact that like I never really thought of Gollum as a coping mechanism. It was always this like Jekyll and Hyde thing instead of something more like no. It is full on a blame or like you said, even a coping mechanism, but it is something that he can push to his malice side.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a fair enough thing to say that like for most people, right, who aren't psychopaths,
Right.
right? And to that point, like, there was nothing to suggest that he was a psychopath, right?
Right.
He might have been lingering in there,
Right.
but again, like
we said, Gollum was already always
but
there.
again, like the ring just like amplifies all that stuff, right? And so, like, how would you, what would you do in order to keep some sense of you-ness, right?
Right.
And still feel okay about yourself,
Right.
like what would you do in order to survive that,
Right.
Like,
and the best way is to create a separate persona,
and then you create something else that's evil,
right?
And that evil thing allows you to do all these other shitty things,
right?
But in the end, it's not you. You're just, you're being dragged along.
That's not us, Precious. That's the other one.
Yeah. And yeah, I think Fran Walsh, who wrote the screenplay for the movies, like, I think they really did, I forget who else. Was it Fran Walsh and someone else? I only remember Fran Walsh.
Yeah.
Like, they did a great, the writers of the Lord of the Rings trilogy movies, right, did a great job, incorporating the books, right, and the source material, and expanding on the character themselves, right, and especially someone like Gollum,
right,
because you do see that kind of torture, that tortured side of him in that scene that we talked about before, right, where it's just like, oh yeah, shit, I forgot, it's just one person, but it's really two people that I just saw act, which I thought was, it's great.
It's funny because he was created as such a simple character, one chapter.
Yeah.
Riddles in the dark.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's it. He's gone.
He was this cave dwelling creature that had a ring. And that was that. Yeah. And he turned into something far more complex, who, again, not the hero of the story, but in essence saved the world.
Yeah.
On accident.
The vehicle through which the world was saved.
Yeah. Accidentally saved the world. And so that is, like, it is interesting to see, to go a little bit deeper into what that is, because we all see him as this, I think it's fair to say that anybody who's seen the movies sees him as this ugly, cute, pitiful creature.
Yeah.
Right? But to really kind of dive into the idea that, yes, he is those things, but he's also complex and has had to compartmentalize a horrid life. And the ring, amplified things in him that maybe he didn't know. Maybe the reason why it went to him instead of Deagle is because he knew that Smegol had some psychopathic tendencies.
Yeah, there's more evil in
that Smegol would kill Deagle for that ring.
Like, it would have gone to whoever was more evil.
Yeah. I mean, if Deagle could have swapped it on him.
Who wanted it more?
If Deagle could have turned it on him and choked him instead, would it have just stayed with him?
Yeah.
Right? But it's this idea that, like, it played them on each other, and Smegol won.
Yeah.
And because of that, because of his inability to cope, he created Gollum.
Yeah.
And that's just a very interesting kind of way to think about it.
I agree.
All right, so I think that's it. I think we're good.
There's
we're going more. Okay.
One more. I'll be right back.
All right.
Because I need to go away for this one. Okay.
All right.
So, I kind of teased this like a couple shows ago.
Okay.
This is our last show here.
Yes.
Right? And then you moved to Salt Lake City.
Right.
So we're all going to be Zoom.
Okay.
So I thought, I need to get you something for you're kind of going away. So
okay.
Melissa.
Is it Ben?
No.
Oh.
You can have him too. Hey, can you come bring it in? So I got you this because I don't think you have it, and you've always admired mine. Hey.
Oh.
So I got you the 50th anniversary edition, which was hard to find.
Oh, that's pretty. Fully corrected.
Yeah.
Look at that. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, is this what you were saying you were gonna spoil?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That's the first part of our bonus episode. You know how and that's the beginning of the that's me calling you a dick. is that right there?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that
I
is
didn't know
pretty.
when it was gonna get here.
Oh, it's so pretty.
It was hard to find it.
Yeah.
Because it's from the 50th anniversary.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. Well, with that, thank you.
I will say this: I've never read that copy of mine.
Well, yeah, it's fucking awkward
It's
as hell.
huge, yeah, it's huge.
Nobody wants to read this, but that's not the point.
No,
right?
It's a showpiece.
Yeah, it's a showpiece and it's a collector's item. Yeah. I've got 2 kids. I can hand it down. Yeah. I told you my son's reading The Lord of the Rings, right? Yeah. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Just so we're clear, guys, I got him a cheap ass paperback copy of the Unfinished Tales, and he got me this. So it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. No,
nice
that's
hardbound.
Yeah. It's got the
sleeve,
the fucking gold edges.
Yeah.
It's like the Bible.
Yeah, it's essentially.
Yeah. Well,
now we
can
end the show.
Now we can end the show. Well, guys, like we talked about while we were in the car a little bit, we've got the Patreon up. We've got 2 bonus episodes on there. So find us. It's the Swolhirrim on Patreon. $3 will get you those bonus episodes. So it's nothing. If you want to go higher than that, you get things like workouts, because we do fitness stuff. We are the Swolhirrim, right? Check us out on Instagram, the Swolhirrim. I'm posting more on there recently. And then if you're looking at us on YouTube, then you know where to find us there. If not, and you're listening to us, then vice versa, do that. But comment. We've actually gotten 2 5-star ratings.
Nice.
No idea who they're from. So if you give us a rating and you want to be entered into our FNX drawing that I still haven't done because nobody's talking to us, go ahead and put your name in. I love that we have 2 5-star ratings, but there's no name attached to it, so I can't do anything with that. So that's awesome. Honestly, we love doing this.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad that this is going to be the last time here in the studio. But we'll have our own studios and we'll continue doing it once I'm settled in a brand new state. And yeah, I think that's it.
Bye.